What's up, everyone? This is Nintendo 25, and you are watching the Old Ass Retro Gamer. And if you ask me, he's not that old. He's pretty young, if you know what I mean.
Hey everybody, Chris the Old Ass Retro Gamer here. What's up, Mondane? What's up, Peter? It's been a day. I literally got home from work 2 minutes before the stream was supposed to start. Started getting everything ready, and then my stomach went crazy. Sucks. Normally I'll get home from work, I have plenty of time, get something to eat maybe, get something to drink, clean up the dome, which is why I'm wearing the hat, because I didn't get a chance to. Anyway, video games. Welcome to the fifth and final Sony PlayStation Video Game Collection 2023 live stream. Glad this one is kind of over. I'm kind of done talking about the PlayStation. I'm ready to move on to something else. What's up, Midwest Media Show? How's it going? Hung like a horse. Sure. So why do I do these streams? It's good content for the channel. It's fun. Get to talk to awesome people, and it's good to have a visual record of your collection in case something bad happens. So, like I said, the final leg of this journey within my massive PlayStation collection. Turns out I forgot to talk about a couple of things 2 streams ago. So I'm going to talk about those first to make up for that fact. And the first thing is Lunar, the Silver Star story complete. I brought up that I had this in a previous stream when I think it was Mondane told me about the issues with the map in this one. And this one is absolutely complete. The cool thing about these working designs, RPG sets that they did for the PlayStation was they are fantastic, and they come with a lot of cool stuff, a lot of awesome artwork. Everything is embossed, glossy, metallic even. It's awesome, and they come with some rad shtick. Like, Lunar comes with this awesome manual / art book, which is in full color, bound, hardcover. Amazing. Even has a bookmark for you, just in case you forget where you were going. The reason Mondane talked about this, or I had mentioned this game earlier in another one of these live streams, was turns out this map, this cloth map that comes with the game, eats plastic. So, like whatever kind of paint they used or whatever, it dissolves plastic. And this was inside the game's jewel case that I have, right on top of a disc. And it was a little bit stuck to the disc, but it peeled off easy. Didn't peel any paint off the disc, and there was absolutely no damage to the map itself. But I mean, it is cool that we get one. So I now keep this separate from the game. It's outside the jewel case, and then we have the game itself. And this sucker is on, was it 3 discs and 1 soundtrack disc. God dang, man. Did it even say on here? No. I played this version of the game a little bit when I first got this, when I first got this into my collection back, I think it was pretty early on. It was like early in 2014. I popped it in. I played it for like a good 2 hours, and I was like, this is pretty awesome. This is as rad as I remember it being, because back in the day, in the 90s, I had the Sega CD version of this. Me and my buddy Charlie, Epic Die Studio, both had a copy of this, and I remember all of us were always talking about it. The opening song being so cheesy and shit, but the animation being awesome, even though it was kind of grainy because it was on, Sega CD. So when this complete version came out, I was like over the moon. I was just like, okay, cool, because I know that there was changes made to, I think, some of the music in the Sega CD version, and the animation was obviously subpar because Sega CD, but everything is like back to the way it should be. Like, I think it had new voice acting done for this version also. So really thrilled to get this into my collection. And the thing was, really early on in like 2013 and 2014, when I got back into collecting, I was like in the midst of purging a lot of my other collections. Like, I had a massive music collection, like CDs, And I was sitting there going like, it wasn't like, oh, video games or music. It was more like, I have all of these CDs like ripped onto my computer. Why do I still have the physical versions? I'm not really a stickler for absolutely having to have a physical version of it on CD. If it's on the computer and I use my iPod to listen to music, why do I need the physical version? So I was like, I'm going to get rid of all my CDs. And I did. And I brought them to this exchange down the street, or this exchange that's down the street from me. God, this thing does not want to go back in the box. And they pretty much bought everything, all my leftovers that they didn't want, I brought to Half Price Books, and they took those because Half Price Books will buy anything. And I give them the bags of CDs. They were talking like 4 or 5 gigantic like bags of CDs. And I went and looked at the games, and I saw the first 2 things I was going to buy, and it was Lunar 1 and Lunar 2, complete, sort of, in their expensive case. And they were not super expensive. I think I paid $45 for this and $65 for Lunar 2, which was like unheard of because I remember looking these up on eBay and they were going for like 3 times that amount at the time. So this is one of those things where I'm sitting there going like, okay, what's wrong with them? Nothing. I checked them out. I looked at them. The only thing was Lunar 2 was missing the medallion that originally came with. Found it on eBay really cheap, and I just completed it myself. So I was like, okay, I'm fine with that. I have never played Lunar 2 on the Sega CD or on the PlayStation. So this one is even thicker with 2 C's than the original. Another awesome looking RPG. Like I said, I've never played this one, so I can't comment if it's awesome or not, but another Working Designs joint with all that awesome artwork and metallic paint and everything. Their stuff is so cool. Great artwork. Love it. And this one comes with a lot more crazy stuff. So you get another thick-ass, hardbound, full-color manual/art book. That is just rad as hell. Also comes with, what is this, the soundtrack? Yep, it comes with a separate soundtrack because all 4 discs or 3 discs in this. Then why is it in? I don't get it. 1, 2, 3. There's 4 discs in here. What's the 4th disc? Oh, the making of Lunar 2. Okay, so 3 discs are for the game. 1 disc is the making of. Okay. And so you got the separate soundtrack, and you also got like this loot crate, this little box of like Lunar 2 goodies. And you open it up, and it has a map that is made out of paper, and it is like stuck to the top here. It comes with like these little cardboard character standy things. I think these also came with the Arc the Lad collection that I have. And then there is the medallion, which I had to buy separately. Open up this little pouch. Look at that. Look at that. All this fuss over this little thing, which is heavy as hell, which is why this box is so freaking heavy, because this thing is like, it's like, quality metal from what I can tell. So there's that, which is awesome. I'm all for tchotchkes and stuff for games, as long as it's an awesome game. And I have a sneaking suspicion this one is pretty awesome, even though I've never played it. I want to, but I want to beat the original before I play this one. So, that's my rule. I'm definitely adding these to the list of RPGs I'm playing this year, since this is my year of the RPG. Omake box. Oh, get your ass back in this box, so help me. I'm not in the mood to play. So got these for a really good price, really early on in collecting. If you watch the pickup video that I did when I got these, I'm holding these in the thumbnail, and I'm making like an O face kind of thing. And I talk about finding them dirt cheap. Well, dirt cheap compared to what they were going for online. So early on in my collecting, I thought that I was going to have to wait a long time to find copies of those, and I got them like pretty close to the start, which is awesome. I had the first one back in the day, bought it. The first complete collection, Lunar. I bought it back in the day, and I don't remember if it was my buddy Justin or somebody else that I knew that was buying games for the PlayStation that was like, that thing is worth a lot of money. Like, it was maybe a few months after it had come out. It's worth a lot of money. Sell it. So I sold it on eBay and I never actually played it. I can't remember who told me that, though. Oh, it's not important. Anyway, now we can get back to the games proper. So last time we ended up talking about... Was that Sled Storm? No. What the hell game was that? Oh. Space World. I'm exhausted, so I'm going to be a little loopy. I grabbed something to drink and I left it in the other room. That's how friggin' panicked I was trying to get here in time. Anyway, so next up we have, and I put this on my, or in my Diamonds in the Rough for the PlayStation video, and that's Spider the video game. This one I had back in the day also. I thought it was super interesting and a cool concept where you're playing as a spider that's about yay big. It's a little robot spider that has like a flamethrower for one of its legs and like a buzzsaw for the other. And it's like a 3D puzzle platformer where you're like this scientist who is making this little robot insect, like a little robot spider, and he like connects his brain to it and he can control it wirelessly. Well, while he's connected, he gets assassinated and his brain or his mind gets stuck inside the spider, and he's trying to find a way to get his essence back into his body. And that's the whole idea of like you going through all these stages, is trying to find out who did this to you and why, and if you can fix your situation. And it is really fun. I like it a lot. This was actually developed by a film studio. If you see right there, it says Boss. I can't remember. I can't read that tiny ass font. I think it's Boss Studios. Boss was a special effects company in the 90s. I think it's Richard Edlund was the guy who started it. He used to work for ILM. He worked on the Star Wars, the original Star Wars movies and all that. And then in the late 80s, early 90s, he created his own company. They did like special effects for Alien 3, Ghostbusters, tons and tons of films you've seen. And then they decided to branch off into video games for some reason. I think this was the only game that they ended up releasing. I don't think this sold very well because it was like from an unknown company. So nobody bought it. But I did because I was reading the magazines and all that, and I was super hyped for it. And I thought it did not disappoint. I thought it was fascinating. Even though I am completely afraid to death of spiders, I thought this was a really cool idea, and I was willing to pick it up because it looked fun. And lo and behold, it was. So I highly recommend that one. That is definitely a diamond in the rough that no one ever freaking talks about. So I think it was in the second stream I was talking about how back in the day when the PlayStation was the console, I had never played any Crash Bandicoot game. I never saw it. I never played. I never had any interest. It was like this little kid's game. I don't need it in my life. That spider game you need, Peter, is dirt cheap and it is super fun. Yeah, I never played Crash, and I definitely never played a Spyro game, because if I thought Crash Bandicoot looked like a little kid's game, this was even more so. This was like a Teletubbies game as far as I was concerned back in the 90s. So I had zero interest in playing any of these. And then get back into collecting. You start learning about things. I watched Captain Algebra stream. I think it was the first Spyro game. And I was like, yeah, that's a little kiddie, but it actually looks kind of fun. So maybe I should look into getting some of these games in my collection and trying them out for myself. So the only thing was, the only one that I have found so far is, I think, what is this, Year of the Dragon? Is this part 2 or 3? I am not sure. These are not numbered. But they are done by Insomniac Games, you know, the people that make the Spider-Man games for the PS4 and PS5. So it's a platformer where you're playing as this little purple dragon, and it's a collect-a-thon type of game, and it's very cutesy. But, you know, it's a challenge if you want to collect everything kind of thing. And Captain Algebra's into that kind of stuff, and there you go. So I was willing to give it a shot. So got this one. I just need to get the other 2 for the PS1. That's part 3. Yeah, I've never played any of them, so I don't know. Cannot comment. This one, oh man, this manual looks like somebody wiped their ass with it. Ugh. This one, a friend of mine, his brother had this. I've talked about this guy, Tom, that I used to hang out with. He had his brother Rich, like, would just sit there while we'd be watching like a movie or a TV in the family room. His brother would be sitting in the corner where they had another TV, just playing video games, like the same one over and over and over again for like days at a time. And this was one of the ones he was doing that with, and that is Star Gladiator Episode 1, Final Crusade. It's Episode 1, but the subtitle is Final Crusade. Way to be confusing, Capcom. You dumb shits. Anyway, this is a 3D one-on-one fighting game that's a little bit like playing... It's like Tekken graphically, but you have weapons and it's sci-fi themed. It's actually pretty fun. I actually like this one a lot. And there's a sequel that I have for the Dreamcast that is even better. And that is Nightmare of Bilstein. I don't remember what the name of it. It's not Star Gladiator anymore. It's like something Nightmare of Bilstein. So, yeah. These are actually pretty fun games. I like these a lot. It's very arcadey, very fast-paced. There's some special moves and stuff, but it's very, very cool. And the sci-fi setting does not affect me in any way. I love sci-fi stuff, so obviously this was right up my alley. And I love fighting games, so hells to the yeah. And I got that, I remember, for $2.50 at that CD recycler, or whatever the hell that place was called by my job. Here's another RPG that I have not played. I actually bought this one back in the day also with the intention of playing it, and then something got in the way, and I just never did. And it's the case back in the day, and it's the case nowadays also. So whatever. And that is Star Ocean, the second story. This is the second game in the franchise. The first one came out on the Super Famicom. We never got it over here, but we got this. And if I remember correctly, Radical Reggie, I think this is like one of his favorite games of all time. I think so. Because I remember when I told him I got this, he was like, oh my God, I can't wait for you to play it. I was like, dude, it's going to be a while. But it's a 2-disc RPG, sci-fi RPG. I'm all for that. I might play this during this year and beyond. I don't know. We will see how it goes. But I was really thrilled to get this back into my collection. But since this is the second game in the franchise, you know my rule. Got to play the first one. Well, luckily, I have the original game on the PSP. Spoiler alert. So I have First Departure, or whatever it's called, for the PSP, which is a port of the Famicom game. I will definitely have to play that before I play this. So can't really comment on it. I know nothing about it, except it's sci-fi, and it's RPG. It's a sci-fi RPG. Logic. Oh, boy. I absolutely loved this back in the day. Had to have it because of the license. You guys know me. I got to have my Star Trek. So we got Star Trek Invasion. This is a Wing Commander style shooter. And you know I love those types of games. I've mentioned it many, many times on this channel. And the only thing is you're playing as like this little... You can see it right here. It's down here. It's like this little Starfleet attack vehicle. And you're just going around blowing other enemies up and stuff like that. There is a plot. I could not tell you what it was because the last time I played this was back in the 90s. But I remember loving it back in the day. It even has like a split screen 2-player mode. Yep, 1 or 2 players. And I love these types of games, so I absolutely had to have it. And the Star Trek license makes it even better. We got some really cool new starship designs. There's one of them on the cover right there that's being attacked. So absolutely all about this. I need to play through this again. Whew. Yep. Oh, you got Worf. I forgot Worf. Yep. Michael Dorn would do anything. You gave him $2.50 and he probably, you know, like say I'm gonna be in your movie. He'll do anything just to be doing something. And then we go into Star Wars. We got Dark Forces. I'm babbling because I'm so freaking tired, guys. Dark Forces. This is the Star Wars version of Doom. It is a first-person shooter in Star Wars land. Originally, it was a PC game. We never had this back in the day. The way my dad was with first-person shooters, he was like all over Doom. Well, he was all over Castle Wolfenstein, then he was all over Doom, then he was all over Duke Nukem, and then he bought Blood, and he was just like, eh. And I was like, no, give me all that blood. I want the blood. Give me it all the pints. And you would think that this would have been the next one that he would have gotten, and hell no. He gave up after a while. I think this game is absolutely fantastic. I don't remember if this port was awesome or not, but I remember enjoying it quite a bit because I had this one back in the day, and this is like a custom PlayStation edition in the same way that Doom was a custom PlayStation edition. So I think this has some lighting effects that take advantage of what the PlayStation could do and stuff like that. But first-person shooter in Star Wars land, and it introduces Kyle Katarn. Hells yeah. Kyle Katarn is one of my favorite extended and deleted canon characters from Star Wars. And my hat is like, I am not trying to look like a freaking gangsta. Ugh, I hate wearing hats sometimes. Anyway, Tired Chris is my favorite Chris. When I start rambling, I'm sure. Keeping going on the Star Wars train, we got Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So I've mentioned it many times on the channel. I hate this movie. I hate it. This game is 10 times better than that movie is. This game is awesome. This game is a lot of fun. It is a top-down, I guess, sort of beat 'em up, where you're playing as, I think you play as Obi-Wan, or not Obi-Wan. Yeah, you play as Obi-Wan and you play as Qui-Gon. I think you can switch. And you're going through the events of the film. Some things were extended to, make the game longer, but it's really, really fun. This is better than it has any freaking right to be, because that movie I thought was so goddamn terrible. But this game is kind of fantastic. I played the crap out of this back in the day. I absolutely loved it. And it has all the music. I mean, it has Duel of the Fates in it, so it's a plus right there. I absolutely loved it. And it comes with something. Special bonus includes Star Wars Duel of the Fates music video. I remember watching the premiere of the Duel of the Fates music video on MTV, and I was just kind of like, huh. I think it's the first time I've ever seen a music video for a score for a film. Anyway, moving on, more Star Wars. We've got Masters of Terrace Kazi. If I had the sound effect from The Price is Right, but boom, 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 wah, this is the turd of the Star Wars game franchise. I was super excited. I know a bunch of my friends were super excited. My buddy Charlie, I remember, was excited. My buddy, that guy Tom that I used to hang out with, was super excited. I love The Last Jedi, but The Phantom Menace is a duke. Bitch about Last Jedi all you like. That movie is fantastic. Phantom Menace is garbage. Hot garbage. Anyway, so this is a one-on-one fighting game in Star Wars land, and you would think that it would be pretty awesome. It's not. It's trying way too hard to shoehorn characters in that have no business being in a fighting game. Like, Luke makes sense. He's got a lightsaber. Vader makes sense. He's got a lightsaber. Obi-Wan, sure, if he was. Let me see who else is in here. You got Boba Fett. He has guns. No. Stormtroopers, they have guns. No. Gamorrean Guard. He has a big axe. Sure, he can fight. There's the Sand Trooper guy. He's got that big staff thing. Okay, fine. Then you got Chewbacca, who's blocking shit with his arms. You've got Leia in the Bosk outfit blocking shit with her arms. There's a guy with a lightsaber, and she's going like this and doing the Wonder Woman block, and she's blocking a lightsaber with her arms. It is stupid. It is so dumb. I was super excited for this, and I remember I brought it home. I went and bought it on day one, and I was like, I played it for maybe 20 minutes, and I was just like, nope. Hell no. But won all the Star Wars games in my collection, so I got to have some poo-poo in there with it. So, yeah, this game is a turd. A big, bright, festering turd. There are unlockable characters. You can unlock some alternate version of Boba Fett, but he's gray. You can unlock, I think, Mara Jade from the books, which is kind of cool because she was a Jedi also. Was it a gray area Jedi or whatever they called it, or a rogue Jedi or something? So that was kind of cool, but outside of that, another Star Wars game, we've got Rebel Assault 2 Hidden Empire. I have not been able to play this recently because every time I would pop this into my backwards compatible PS5, or not PS5, PS3, I'm tired, guys, I'm tired. Every time I put this in my old fat PS3 that played all the consoles, when it would get to the cutscenes, it would play them at 3 times speed. And I'd be like, what? What is going on? I want to know what the story is for this game. What the hell? So I haven't been able to play this recently, but it's a sequel to Rebel Assault, which I do have for the 3DO. It was also available on the Sega CD. It's a full motion video Star Wars game. I think they said that this was, ever since Return of the Jedi, or I guess the Ewok movies, I'm assuming, the last Ewok movie, the Battle for Endor one, this was the first footage ever filmed for a Star Wars anything since the last Ewok movie. So this was made in 96 or 97, something like that, maybe 98. I can't read. I need glasses. But yeah, whatever space of time it was, nothing had been done with film involving Star Wars since the Ewok movie, and this was the first thing ever made on film. She was Luke's wife. Yep. Mara Jade. Ooh. She was in a really cool fan film, too. I can't remember what it was called, though. The actress that played her was hot as hell. But yeah, it's like you're watching a CG rendered movie playing, and enemies are superimposed over that movie, and you have like a crosshairs, a reticle, and you just shoot them. Every once in a while, you're on foot, though, which is kind of cool. But this one, I don't remember liking nearly as much as the original Rebel Assault. I thought that one was really kind of cool. It was a new thing. This one was just kind of like, instead of animated cutscenes, we're going to have live action cutscenes, and they are going to be shit. I mean, you can see the one right there with that arrogant ass Imperial officer there, and the acting in this is terrible. It is terrible. But it's more Star Wars, and Star Wars is like sex. Even when it's pretty bad, it's still pretty good. Found this at my old retro store, the one that closed. People Play Games. I don't know much about it, but then I did not realize what company released this, but it's called Starwinder, The Ultimate Space Race, and it's like playing like F-Zero if it was like really, really bad. It does not look great, but I found this dirt cheap when they were shutting down. So I picked up the copy because I was like, why not? And it has a lot of really cool looking characters and stuff like that. But then I saw that it was developed by, you may not be able to read it there, by Mindscape, my favorite company of all time. I'm a glutton for punishment. Mindscape effed me in the A over Mad Max on the NES. Yeah, so I try to stay away from them, but sometimes it's unavoidable. But I haven't played that one. This one I have played. This is one of the games that convinced my boss at the video store I worked at back in the mid-90s that we needed to have this game. And turns out this is another Mindscape joint also. This one's called Steel Harbinger. And it's a third-person like action beat-em-up type of game. My favorite Mindscape game. That's probably one of the only... That's the only one that I got. I asked... In order for beta testing Mad Max, I asked for 720 degrees... and Road Blasters. All I got was 720 degrees. They never sent me Road Blasters, the sons of bitches. Anyway, so this is like a third-person action beat-em-up, and there's also some racing stuff going on. And, yeah, the CGI in this is not good, but there's also these really bad live-action cutscenes in here because that's what everybody was doing back in the 90s. And the game is like, it's kind of badly designed and it's not exactly fun. And I remember convincing my boss we needed to have this because we needed to have some single A games alongside the triple A games that everybody wanted in order to fill out the collection. We had to have options for people. And this was one of the ones that just kind of sat there because nobody knew anything about it. So, so I picked it up and I wanted it back into my collection because of that memory of my boss going like, yeah, that game you wanted. Shut the fuck up. Never tell me what game you want to buy for the collection ever again. Oh, yeah. I forgot about it. Yeah, I did do that. I've talked about that story so many times. It's even in Brett Weiss's Nintendo book that he just released, Peter. So this one is missing the manual. But I got this at... What was it? Midwest Gaming Classic. I think it was the first one at the convention center. So this is 2018. And I've been wanting to get this into my collection for a long time. And I was willing to not have the manual. I can always find the manual somewhere else. I'm sure someone is selling it somewhere. But it's the first Suikoden. I don't know how to pronounce this crap. Anyway, it's an RPG. And the thing about this game is you can have like a massive army at your command. You eventually will have like... found so many people that you've added to your party as the story has gone along that you end up having like this army. And it's really kind of cool. I remember watching Hungry Garaya streaming this on Twitch, and there was like this thing that happened, and I've talked about it before, and I'll talk it again because it's funny as hell. So she's playing this game, and she adds this character to her party named Fusulu, okay? And in his profile picture, when you're talking to each other in your party, it's like a tiger's head. Or no, it was like a tiger's head. And she's like, oh, it's a big tiger. like like an upright tiger. That's awesome. So she's like, even the name Fusulu, you know, that sounds like something some Asian person might name a cat or something like that. Like she's like, this is really cool. I'm talking to an upright tiger, like a tiger on two legs. Until she got into a fight. So she gets into the fight, and Fusulu's in her party, and no, it turns out it's a dude wearing a tiger hat, like a tiger head hat. And like everyone in the chat just starts like doing the ROFLs and LMFAOs and all that stuff, and Fusulu is not a real tiger, and it just turns into this joke for like 15 straight minutes, and I think she clipped it, or somebody clipped it. She was just laughing hysterically and couldn't breathe because of all the jokes that everyone in the chat was making. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on the internet. It was so funny. The shit that people were making fun of Fusulu for. So every time I log into one of her streams nowadays, I lead off with Fusulu is not a real tiger, and she just starts giggling again. So yeah, it's a pretty rad-looking RPG from Konami. This is very long-running. There's like 5 or 6 games in this franchise. I think I have a couple. Yeah, I have a couple for the PS2. So I'll probably add this to the collection, or not the collection, the list of games I want to play for this year. Suikoden. I don't know how to pronounce it. I wish that when you like when you boot up Resident Evil, the guy goes Resident Evil. I want that for that game. I boot that game up and it goes Suikoden or Suikoden. I don't know what the hell. Just to clear up the question, is this how you pronounce this damn name? Anyway, so moving on to Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. Absolutely love this game. I played the crap out of this with friends, alone, mostly alone. It's like playing Tetris or Puyo Puyo where you're matching up colored crystals. The more you have in a bunch, the bigger they get. So like if you have like 9 of them together, like on top in 3 rows of 3, they'll turn into one giant crystal. And as long as you keep adding layers that equal up to the width of what you already have, it'll just keep making the crystal bigger until you drop down like this buster pellet that's the same color, and it busts all the jewels that are connected to that one of the same color. And it is super fun. And in the meantime, as you're doing all this stuff, you see your character that you pick, who starts off with, I think, a specific pattern of jewels and stuff. Each character in this, like, it's like playing Street Fighter. I think Morgan is in this too. Yeah, Morgan's in here. A couple of characters from Darkstalkers and Street Fighter. Each character you pick starts off with like a specific pattern of jewels. And as you're having your little duel battle, you watch them beat the crap out of each other depending on who's sending more jewels to the other character's side. And it's really cool to watch. And it's very distracting also, because it's kind of as cool as that is, it's distracting you from you actually playing. Because there's been times where I've watched the fight and I'm like, oh shit's piling up on my side. Damn it. It happened again. So this game is absolutely fantastic. I love it. It's one of my favorite games for this console. Kenna was a tiger. If Kenna was a tiger. I don't remember where I found this. Was it Half Price Books? I think it was. Super Bubble Pop. It's like one of these budget games from Jalico. And it's essentially like a take on Bust a Move, but it's like in 3/4 view. So instead of it being just straight 2D, vertical, it's kind of like in an angle, and you're like a character who looks like he's bowling almost. You can kind of see it in the pictures. It's actually pretty fun. I picked this up because it was dirt cheap and turned out to be a winner. Next up I have the original game in this franchise for the 3DO. Had no clue there was a sequel available. I knew there were sequels and add-on packs available for the PC version of this game. I had no idea that we actually got like an add-on / sequel for the PlayStation. And that is Syndicate Wars. If you've ever played Syndicate, it's cyberpunk as fuck. I absolutely love it. So that it's like a top-down, like espionage, like cyberpunk espionage simulator where you have to like go into corps or like megacorps and stuff like that, and like get information to trade and sell and all this kind of crazy shit. It's pretty cool, but this one just looks absolutely nuts. There's like fights going on and all this kind of crazy stuff. I absolutely need to play through the first game before I even attempt to go into this. But what does it say? Multiplayer option, up to 4 players, fully destructible world, blow up every object in the game. 3D rotating map during gameplay, over 60 missions in more than 30 different cities, over 15 weapons, nuclear grenades, razor wire, psycho gas, and more. Yeah, welcome to the urban hell of ultraviolent mayhem, to streets controlled by warring factions where the innocent are slaughtered without remorse, to ruthless cyborgs and crazed zealots armed with enough destructive might to trigger Armageddon, to a world without pity. It sounds so dark and edgy. Kind of like Cyberpunk. Okay, so now we got a big-ass franchise here, which I love. It's not aged well, I will admit it, but I love this because of one specific thing about it. We're talking the Siphon Filter games, guys. I love this game. It's clunky. Your character runs with like the sachet of like someone who has an inordinately large ass. It's weird the way the guy runs. But it's a third person. It's kind of like trying to be Metal Gear Solid, but in the third person and like free flowing. It's not like that top down thing. It's behind the character. And it's a little more action oriented. But the thing about this game that I love is the flippin' taser. The taser in this game is the coolest freaking thing ever. I would just stand there and find some rando on like the top of a building, and I'd tase him, and I would just let him bake. I would deep fry his ass up there. And the sounds that come out of these characters that are being electrocuted to death are some of the funniest sounds ever made. Like, and stuff like that. It is so funny. Just watching them just constantly shaking and getting caught on fire. And it's so funny. I absolutely love it. The game itself is okay. The story ain't the greatest. But as an introduction to the franchise, it's pretty cool. And then about a year later, we got Siphon Filter 2, which is more of the same. Some graphical upgrades. The story has been greatly improved. And it's now such a big game that it's on 2 discs, guys. Ooh, goddamn. I did not play this one nearly as much as I played the original, but I remember playing it quite a bit, and I thought it was pretty cool. But I need to reintroduce myself, or I need to get back into playing those again because I like them so much. And that was such a big hit that we got Siphon Filter 3, like about a year after that. And this one is the same kind of thing, where it's been just improved a little bit more, graphics, play control, story. But the thing is, this one is only on 1 disc, but it's in the dual disc. Fuck you, dropping all this shit on me. It's in the dual disc case for some reason. I don't know why. But it comes with this Siphon Filter 3 weapons guide, which is only like 10 pages long. Why? I don't know. And then this join PlayStation Underground card-free thing. And the manual is a standard-sized manual. So why did they put it in this gigantic freaking jewel case that takes up all this space on my damn shelf? They did it to piss me off. That's why. Yeah. That game. Now we're moving into T's. We got Taifu, Wrath of the Tiger. This is a 3D. I think this is a 3D beat 'em up. I think. Yeah, it's a 3D beat 'em up. For some reason, I always think this is a fighting game, but it's because there's another game that's similar to this on another console that's the one-on-one fighting game. I get them confused, but yeah, this is a 3D beat 'em up with all anthropomorphized animals. Is that the term? Am I using it right? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Am I a dumbass? Probably. But I remember playing this one a little bit, and it's kind of cool. I need to spend more time with it, but just like most games, I would buy this because I remember I got this at that CD recyclery or whatever the hell the place was called, and like I would buy like a bag full of games. Their stuff there was so cheap, and I remember I just popped this in real quick to see if it worked, and I was like, okay, cool. I like what I'm seeing, but never went past that. This one I got at a Goodwill. I remember that. The Goodwill by my work. They opened up a brand new Goodwill that was right by this restaurant that I used to go to for lunch sometimes. And I was like, on my lunch break, I was like, yeah, after I eat, I'll go and check out this game or this GameStop, this Goodwill, to see what they got. And this is the only thing I found. It was dirty as hell. It was all marked up. Like the jewel case had marker marks all over it. I cleaned it up real nice. And that is Tarzan. I think this is also available on the Nintendo 64, but why would you want that when you can have the one with the CD quality audio? It's a Disney movie. Come on, they got the Phil Collins songs and all of that junk. But it's a platformer where you're playing as Tarzan with the big-ass thighs and the loincloth. Yeah, it's decent. It could have been a hell of a lot better, but like most of these licensed games based on the Disney films, they're good, but they definitely had room to improve. But for like $1 that I paid for that, I'm cool with it. Talk about the other 2 games in this franchise already. This is the OG, the one that has the weird naming convention that I don't get. That is Tecmo's Deception. You got Tecmo's Deception, then you have Kagero Deception 2, and then you have Deception 3, Dark Delusion. So I have all 3 games in this franchise, and they're just all over the collection instead of being in one spot. Do you know what OCD people are like? But the cool thing about this franchise is you're always playing as the bad guy. So you're in a mansion, your mansion. The people are coming to kill you, just like in Frankenstein with the pitchforks and the torches and all that shit. And they're trying to break into your castle to kill you. The only thing you have to defend yourself are traps. So you have to start setting traps around the house because they're going to get in the house at some point. You have like a time limit before they actually get inside. You have to set all these traps. You can make combos. Some traps will play off of each other and create like combos and stuff. And the more experience you get from killing people with your traps, the more traps you unlock and the more crazy, kind of Rube Goldberg-y they get. And it is super fun. I absolutely love this franchise. It is so cool and different and unique. And I rented this one from a video store back in the day. And I was like, this is kind of rad. I mean, I love it. But I never found a copy of this out there to buy. Same with the sequel, Kagero. I absolutely love Kagero. Kagero, I think, is way better than this one is. And I could never find copies of it anywhere. I could not understand it. Maybe it's just too radical a concept. They didn't think that anyone would want to play as the villain. I did, because that was cool. I like it a lot. It's a super fun game series. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like in the first PlayStation. I actually started talking about it, I think, in the 3DO or whatever. That like this was a really cool time in gaming where people were trying to figure out how to make 3D work and make it fun. So like every time I would buy a new game, it was a brand new experience that I've never had before because everyone was experimenting and trying all these new things. So even though like nowadays I might say like something like Tarzan is kind of like, back in the day I was probably like spooging all over the place because I was like, oh my God, this game! I've never played anything like it! Was that too graphic? Have I mentioned I'm tired? Anyway, one of my all-time favorite games. This is a sequel/port of a Jaguar game, an Atari Jaguar game that I absolutely love. Probably my favorite Atari Jaguar game ever. And at this point that this game came out for the PlayStation, I had gotten rid of my Jaguar and that game. This was the best way or the only way I was going to be able to play it without having to get a Jaguar again, and that is Tempest X Cubed or Tempest X3. So the way I think the numeral system with this goes is it's Tempest and then Super Tempest or something like that, and then Tempest 2000, or is it Tempest, then Tempest 2000, then this, and then there was the one for the Nuon, which I don't know if that actually counts in the franchise anymore, but then there's Tempest 4000 that came out for like the PS4 and the Xbox One, which I understand is more of just a port of the Nuon game with better graphics. I don't know how it works. It's weird. I don't get it. Anyway, this is the exact same game as the one on the Atari Jaguar, except the graphics have been amped up a little bit. The music is the same. It's the exact same score from the Jaguar game, which I was super thrilled about because I love the music in that game. There's just a couple of more crazy effects in this one. It's a little bit hectic, a little more hectic than the Jaguar one. There's just stuff flying at your face all the time. But I absolutely love this game, and it's cool being able to play it on the PlayStation, not have to have a Jaguar. But no, I kind of want a Jaguar again. Sheesh. The new one game you don't think was licensed? It had the soundtrack. I played it at the Midwest Gaming Classic. They had a new one hooked up to a TV with Atari or Tempest 3000, I think it was, in there, which I think is supposed to be what that is. You came into what? Oh, me having my O face, TJ. Ooh. You know you liked it. Anyway, next up we have Tenchu Stealth Assassins, the start of this franchise. And this is a 3D ninja action-adventure game. And I had this one back in the day, and I absolutely loved it. Never beat it, but absolutely thought it was fantastic. Like playing as a ninja, doing all the stealth stuff, maybe going full-bore hack slash. Absolutely loved it. The story is actually kind of screwed up, too. I played the crap out of this one back in the day. And then I never played the sequel, Tenchu 2, Birth of the Stealth Assassin. So I think this is supposed to be a prequel. And it's just more of the same, just with better graphics. And now you have 2 different characters to play as. So there's that. Poison Rice. Ooh, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was, oh god. Okay, here's another one that's a memory from the video store I worked at. So trying to get some of those single A titles mixed in with the AAA titles, to fill out the selection for the customers. So my dumbass picked Time Commando. And I was like, hey, it's my Activision. Activision's a pretty good company. Back in the day, they didn't really have the reputation they have now. So I was just kind of like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get it. It'll be fantastic. I hear it's kind of like playing Resident Evil. And it is. It is playing Resident Evil, but it's like 10 times worse control-wise. It is so nuts. So nuts. But yeah, you're this dude who's like jumping through time periods, but you're playing with the tank controls and the fixed camera angles and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of hard to navigate. And it showed in the amount of times this game actually rented when we had it. It rented more than that Steel Harbinger did, though, because the cover art, I will say, is pretty interesting looking. Look kind of Stargate-y. So, yeah, I wanted to get it back into my collection because, the video store the memories. Picked this one up at, what was it, that Play It Retro, that overpriced place that checks eBay whenever you ask what the price of a game is. I picked this up, I think, when I went there with Captain Algebra, like 2 years ago, or a year ago. I don't remember when we went. I think it was 2 years ago. But that is Tobal #1. This is one of those games when Squaresoft was trying to branch out again, when they were like, hey, you know what? Let's make a fighting game. Sure, let's try that. It's not that great. There's actually got a sequel in, I think, in Japan, Tobal #2. But yeah, it's like playing Tekken, and I'm not a big fan of Tekken, so it's kind of like technical with a little arcadey stuff, and there's also some platformy stuff here. I don't remember if that's like a QuickTime event. I think it's a QuickTime event kind of thing. But ultimately, not that great. But the cool thing about this was it came with this interactive sampler CD for Final Fantasy VII, which is why it's in this double disc case. So there's that. But yeah, I haven't spent too much time with this. The one that I played the most was Guys, because that had an arcade game, or there was an arcade cabinet. I remember always playing as, what was it, 13 or number 13, that big red dog thing from Final Fantasy VII. This one I got for like $1 at Half Price Books. I can't remember if I got this at that warehouse sale or not, but I remember I definitely got this at Half Price Books. And who gives a shit? It's Tokyo Highway Battle. It's like a generic racing game where you're like doing like time trials against other street racers in Tokyo. Too fast, too furious, Tokyo drift. That kind of thing. Yay! I don't think this even has a licensed soundtrack. Oh, it says one supercharged CD soundtrack, but there's no named bands or anything like that, so it can't be that supercharged now, can it? Oh shit, please tell me this has the name of the place on it. No, it turns out I got this at that CD recyclery because that's one of their labels. I just wish I could remember what the name of it was. I can't remember. It's been so long. I miss it too because they always, just like that game, that Half Price Books that I go to by my work, which is like dried up now. Every time I would go to that place, I'd be like, hey, after work today, I'm going to go and stop by that CD whatever place and see what they got. And I'd always find a stack of stuff that was dirt cheap and I want. No, it's not really happening anymore. It makes me sad. Tomb Raider 2. I don't have the first one for the PlayStation because I have the OG version on the Saturn. Didn't want to double dip because I don't think the first one's all that. Second one, on the other hand, is pretty cool. This is the one that I played the most out of the trilogy, the original trilogy for the PlayStation. Lara Croft, 3D adventuring. The controls got sorted out pretty well in this one. There's some more gameplay types, like when you're underwater and whatnot. It's pretty cool. I like this one a lot. It's my favorite of the three. But doesn't mean I don't have Tomb Raider 3, Adventures of Lara Croft. This is the one where I remember I bought this because I liked part 2 so much. Screw you, Adobe Flash. Leave me alone. Why do you always have to do this when I'm streaming? Oh, fuck you. Ugh. Red 13. Thank you very much. I forgot that, guys. I remember it was 13 something. Yeah, this is where it was like they were just pumping them out and it didn't feel like it was complete and it was just rushed out to market to make some money. Because I remember buying this one And I played it for like 2 days, and I was just kind of like, you know what? I think I'm done. And I never played it again. That was the last time I played a Tomb Raider game until Tomb Raider Legend. And Legend was the one that got me reinterested in the franchise. Because Legend was awesome. Still is. Licensed game, gotta have Tomorrow Never Dies. See, the thing about these James Bond games is some of them, like they always have 007 on the cover, but you never know if it's being called 007 and then the title, or if it's the title and 007. So like my app that I catalog all my games in, it's like I have some games that are like listed under 007 and the name of the game and all that kind of stuff. They're just all over the place. It's another OCD nightmare. But this one is not. Well, this was the one that had. No, this one was not on the Nintendo 64. That was World Is Not Enough. But this one is a 3D third-person action game where you're playing as Bond going through the events of the movie. There's some extra stuff in here also because you got to fill out the game somehow. But it's okay. It could have been a hell of a lot better. Like at this point, they were just trying to because GoldenEye was the previous game based on a film. You know, GoldenEye was the movie that came out before Tomorrow Never Dies. Everyone was trying to recapture that because that was a huge hit. This one, I don't think it was as big as GoldenEye, but World Is Not Enough, I think was. But this one, not so much. But it's okay. It's a decent game. This is Freak Toys. Oh, yeah, I just got this one at Freak Toys in September, I think. But yeah, this is Top Gun Fire at Will. I picked this one up when I went game hunting with TJ Kitsune and Captain Algebra, and it's Rocket Sauce. And I wanted to pick this up, not because it's Top Gun, but because of the live action cutscenes that happen. It's just a typical like airplane fighter, dogfight type game. But it has live action cutscenes starring the principal from Back to the Future, the guy who's always calling people slackers, and that woman that's underneath who's the reporter. She was the vampire, the villain in Fright Night Part 2, the original one from like 1987 or 8 or whatever it was. I can't remember what her name is, but she's not good at this. She looks like embarrassed. She's just like, well, rent was due. I'm here. But it's a decent like airship simulator type game. Yeah, GoldenEye was so good. Sure. Anyway, Treasures of the Deep. This was on my list of Diamonds in the Rough on the PlayStation. I absolutely love this game, even though I have a deep, deep, deep fear of the ocean and sharks. So what do I do when I see this on the shelf at Best Buy? Yeah, let's bring that home so I can have a panic attack while the controller's in my hand. Logic. I never said I was smart. But yeah, I actually love this game. It actually did give me mild stress sometimes because sharks show up and it's like, God damn, why did I do this to myself? But it's like an underwater exploration game. You're looking for gold and treasure and relics and stuff like that. And you obviously will come across, you can see there's like downed aircraft and there's like aircraft carriers and like, downed ships and all that kind of stuff. And you're going to come across sea life. For one of the first things you fight in this game is a giant eel who's like inside of a wrecked like pirate ship. And you have to kill that to get these treasure chests that are behind it. It's really, really cool. I like it a lot. It's very fun. It's mildly stressful. There's times where you're like going through an area and it's like the only thing that is illuminating the area is the headlights of the submersible that you're in. It is very stressful, but very fun. I like that game a lot. It's different. It's fun. Sometimes it's even relaxing. Peter, come on. You saw my video from last year. That eel's a reference to Mario 64. Doesn't look as good as Tomcat Alley? No. Not even as good as Top Gun on the NES. One of my all-time favorite games, I have the original game in the long box that I talked about in my first video in the series. But we're talking Twisted Metal 2. Absolutely loved this game. The first 2 games in this franchise, the mere mention of Twisted Metal and my nipples would get harder and rip through my shirt. Like you just poke right through. Boing! I absolutely loved this game. It introduced a whole new franchise, a whole new genre of games to me, like the vehicular combat game. Absolutely fell in love with it. First 2 games, played them to death. Found every single nook and cranny, every exploit, everything. played these games for months at a time with no breaks in between. This one is, I think, better than the original. More characters, some really unique characters like Axel here, who is like a dude with like tires for arms, gigantic tires. It's fantastic. Every vehicle has their own special weapon, their own attributes that work against you in other areas. It's absolutely fantastic. Just blow everybody up, move on to the next stage. All the environments have secret areas and destructible areas and stuff. It is so cool. One of my top games of all time. And then, for some reason, what was it? Single Track, I think, was the developers of this. Yeah, Single Track decided to move on and do something else. So 989 Studios came in and developed Twisted Metal 3, and it was almost like they had never played a Twisted Metal game when they developed this, because it was like they suckled all the fun out of it. Sure, it looks like the other games, and all the characters from the other games, a lot of them are returning from the first two, but this one is just not all that fun. The stages are very like generic, like the secrets and the hidden areas and all that. There's not that many, and when you do find it, it's not really all that worth it. The new weapons they introduced are kind of crappy. The new characters they introduced are kind of generic. It just didn't feel like Twisted Metal. It was just very sad. And it almost killed the franchise. Like, I remember a lot of people were like, this is the last game in this series I'm buying. And I was almost one of them. And then 989, because that did sell a ton of copies because it's Twisted Metal, they came back and made Twisted Metal 4. This was a step in the right direction. This one is a hell of a lot better than the third one, but it still doesn't even come close to matching the awesomeness of the first two. It was just kind of like 989 was not the right studio to continue this franchise. Like, they just didn't get it. And they even did, well, this one is like graphically is pretty cool, I remember, but like there's just too much junk floating around in this. It still just didn't feel like Twisted Metal. But you got to keep pumping them out. So this is kind of funny that Incog Inc. made Twisted Metal Small Brawl, which is like you're playing remote control car versions of the characters from the other Twisted Metal games, and you're running around on areas that, like, it's kind of like playing one of the Micro Machine games where you're playing on like a table. Here you're like running across like a construction area, and there's like a bandsaw and all that kind of stuff, and just things that we take for granted because these are little toy cars fighting, are really kind of cool here. It's okay. I think it's actually better than Twisted Metal 3, but Twisted Metal 4 is better than this. But yeah, it's whatever. So here's where we get interesting stuff. Okay, so I've talked about how I love rhythm games, like, a lot. And Parappa the Rapper was one of those games that like ate up a ton of my time back in the day. So when they release a follow-up to Parappa the Rapper, not like a sequel, but like a spin-off from one of the characters that was in Parappa the Rapper, I was like, give it to me now. I don't care. I just want to play it. So instead of having to do with rapping, this one has to do with guitar playing, and that is Jammer Lammy. So if I remember correctly, it wasn't Jammer Lammy that was the character. It was this cat character that was in Parappa that carried over here. So you're playing as Lammy, and she wants to be a rock star in the same way that Parappa wanted to get the girl in that one. She just wants to become like a star, right? And it's all the trials she has to go through in order to get there. Well, I absolutely loved this game. I beat this faster than I ever beat Parappa. I thought this one was absolutely fantastic. I love the music and the songs and everything about it. The story, I think, is even more interesting. Not interesting, but more fun than Parappa's. But I played through this, I don't know, multiple times. Multiple friends of mine were like, let's see it. And I would play through it for them. And it was a lot of fun. And then I found out that this is censored. There is an entire stage missing from the game. And there's like a point in the game where it's like, how did you get to this point? How did you get here? The story up until now didn't really set that up. And all of a sudden now you're at this place. How did that happen? Well, it's because they cut out an entire stage because they thought that we would get offended. Us crazy Americans get offended at everything. We're a bunch of Karens. So what it ended up being was there was a stage where Lammy went to hell. She has like a duel against the devil, like a guitar duel. Well, I need to find a better manual or at least something, because this got jacked up somehow. I don't remember why, but I'll have to look it up. I was at this place in the old mall that I used to go to back in the 90s, or maybe it was the early 2000s when I picked this up, I think. They had a video. It was called Music Recyclery, and it's on the label here. I still have the price tag on it. And I was looking through their video game section, and they had the import version of Jammer Lammy. So I picked it up, and you can see exactly how much I paid for it. $7.99 back in the day. Only thing is, I don't know if this is the original cover. Like on the back, you've got this, but it just feels like something's missing. But it's like, it looks like this will be the first page. Like if you were to open up the cover, this would be the first thing you see. But if you look at the back, it's not like there was a page missing. It's not like, because, the way they're stapled, it's one big long page that's just been folded. It doesn't feel like that. So I don't know what is going on here. I'll have to look into this to see if something, maybe it's supposed to be like that page folded over. I don't know. Something's going on. Anywho, this has that missing level in it, the Hell stage, and it's a lot of fun. The song is actually pretty fun and catchy. Super thrilled to be able to have both, and I can play this on my import PlayStation 1. So I've got 2 copies of the same game. This one I actually put on my Diamonds in the Rough for the PlayStation video, and it is called The Unholy War. This one is by Crystal Dynamics. Dynamics. Original, or now they are the people that are in charge of making the Tomb Raider games, if I remember correctly. But back in the day, I knew them from the 3DO, because they developed some of my favorite games for the 3DO. Or at least ported them. This is like playing... I talked about it on the Nintendo stream. There's a game called Archon, where it's like playing chess. It's set up like a chessboard, but you don't really have like your standard chess pieces. You have like manticores and genies and unicorns and stuff like that, and golems and all that. And when you take a character's space on the board, which was like a checkerboard, like a chessboard, you have a physical fight. Like you have to actually fight each other for it. It's not like, what was it, Battle Chess, where you take the spot and then you actually see a pre-recorded or a pre-made fight scene where the character who's doing the taking of the spot wins. Here, it's like you're fighting over the spot. Well, this is like one step further, where it's like playing like Warhammer. We have this hexagonal play field and all these different types of characters, and you're doing the exact same thing you do in Archon. You're trying to occupy these specific spaces. There's a group of enemy characters, and you have to fight over the spaces that they're holding. And it is super fun. And when you go into the fight scenes between the characters, like, it is nuts. I absolutely love it. I played the crap out of this back in the day. And there's another game that came out for the Xbox and I think the PlayStation 2. I have it for the Xbox, which is like the spiritual successor to this. And I put that on my Xbox list of Diamonds in the Rough. It is fantastic. It is so much fun. It's like a different twist on a board game kind of thing. I absolutely love it. See? Stop being so simpatico, Peter. Anime. Love this anime. Had to have the video game. I didn't know if the game was going to be any good or not, but I didn't care. I love this anime. I love it, love it, love it. So I had to have it. And that is Vampire Hunter D. Please nuts. I absolutely love the 2 Vampire Hunter D movies that we've gotten, the animated ones from Japan. They're fantastic. I read one of the books of like the 20 freaking books that have been written about this character. I would love to make a live-action version of Vampire Hunter D if I had the means. But in video game form, it is like a kind of like a precursor to Devil May Cry. It's a 3D beat-em-up where you're playing as D, and you've got your super-ass long sword, and as you swing it like leaves streaks all over the place and stuff. It's kind of cool. It still had a little bit of work to do, I guess, to like clean it up, but it's super fun. And if you like beat-em-ups with an anime character and a lot of vampire and monster-y stuff, it's pretty cool. But I remember seeing this at the Kmart when I went back to work at that Kmart that I worked at when I was in high school, when I was there for like 3 months while I was waiting for a call from another job. I remember we had this there, but I never bought it. I wished I did, but I got it back into my collection now. I don't care. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot. This one I got off of a Facebook group when I first started collecting again, and another one that I'm glad I knocked off when I could, or when I did, because I think this game is actually kind of pricey now. but it's Vandal Hearts, another RPG I've never played. Konami, another single discer that's in a double width case. I don't understand why you're wasting my shelf space, Konami, you tools. But like you open it up and it's like you've got a standard size manual. It's not super thick, and you've got one disc. Is it just to like take up more space on the shelf at the store to get attention? I don't know, but it has a nice little ad for Suikoden. I don't know how to pronounce that shit. Anyway, RPG, haven't played it. I tried it out to make sure it worked when it showed up. I think this is more of a tactical RPG, but yeah, thrilled to have it, but haven't played it. And I think there's sequels to this. Another import game that I got. You know my rhythm games. I love my rhythm games. I'd heard about this from magazines, and one of my friends who was like a real import gamer was always talking about it, so I had to find a copy of it. And I got this, I think, in the early 2000s off of eBay. And it is called Vib Ribbon. And it comes in like one of these super slim cases. I don't know why. It's another one of those things where I'm like, you sons of bitches, why are you trying to make my OCD cray-cray? Maybe this is just the guy that I bought this from lost the original artwork, but he had the manual and the CD. I don't know. I think it actually came like this. Don't ask me why. Just maybe to be different. Who knows? Anyway, the rhythm aspect of it is you play as this little wireframe character, and as he's like walking horizontally across the stage, there's like environmental shapes that you have to traverse. So there'll be like a dip. And then if you see the dip, you have to wait until you're about there, and then you hit a button that corresponds with how to get around the dip, which is to jump over it. And that makes a note. And then there's maybe like something you have to climb over. So one of the buttons on the face of the controller is the climb over button, and it's like another jump kind of thing. And that makes a different kind of note. And then you start having other different environmental hazards coming up in combinations of the two, and it ends up making a song. It's like playing, it's not like playing Simon because you don't have the notes beforehand, but it's just really interesting the way it's put together. And as a rhythm game fan, I was like, I had to have it. I have to try it for myself, and it's actually pretty fun. It's different. I haven't played a game like this since, but it's actually pretty cool. I like it a lot. He's got the D's next. Ooh, which one's the rare game? Vib Ribbon? This one is definitely not rare. I think Captain Algebra streamed this. Oh, Vampire. That's a rare game? What? I got that like 2015 maybe for like dirt cheap. Anyway, VIP. Yep, this is the Pamela Anderson TV show, the little spy TV show, their private investigator show that she did for a little while. I think it was on for like 3 or 4 seasons. And someone thought it was a really good idea to make a video game about it. Okay. I remember I think it was Continue played this, and I laughed at it so much. I was like, if I ever see that somewhere out in the wild, I should just buy it because, and I did. And I think it's like part beat 'em up, part light gun game, and I think that's it. Yeah, Exploding Bombshells, VIP Uncut, played through your own interactive episode loaded with VIPs. Combustible mix of gameplay and high caliber humor. That was lowbrow humor. I'm sorry. Survive the intense combo rhythmic action with sharp wits and furiously fast fingers. Over 20 thumb mashing mini games to conquer. Yeah, I remember just watching Continue play, and I laughed so hard. I was like, I need it, and then I found it, and I never played it. But it doesn't look great. And I think, like I said, I think Captain Algebra streamed it. So I watched him play it, so therefore I don't have to. But licensed games have to have them. Anyway, here's another licensed game. I never thought we'd get a game based on this movie. But we did. War Games, DEF CON 1. Sure. I know there was a War Games game that came out for the ColecoVision, but it was like that whole thermonuclear war thing that was going on in the movie. You're kind of playing that. This is kind of like if you're playing, what's that game called? Return Fire that I was talking about for the 3DO, and I think it came out for the PlayStation and the Saturn, where it's just like a bunch of like vehicular combat kind of things. Sure, I guess. I remember I found this at that music CD recycler, or whatever the hell it was called. or disc replay. That was the name, disc replay. Took me that long. How many weeks has it been me trying to remember that damn name? Disc frickin' replay. Shit. And the store isn't even in existence anymore. And I'm stressing about that shit. Anyway, there's like mechs and stuff in here. It's okay. I picked it up basically because I was like, a war games? Like, really? Yes, this VIP on WB. Oh, God. I see what you did there. You're a poet and didn't know it. And I've talked about this multiple times. You're going to be hearing about it more now that we're getting into the disc-based consoles. What's good, Retro Coop? What's up? I keep finding games in this tabletop RPG franchise, and I never play this damn tabletop game. But I have all the freaking video games based on it. I don't know why, but usually if I find them, I buy them because they look kind of cool. So, yeah, we got Warhammer, The Dark Omen. I have so many games in the Warhammer franchise, it's like staggering. This is a big-time strategy game, kind of like playing Dune or Command & Conquer, but it's all about the Warhammer universe. I have not played. You can see Games Workshop. They're the Warhammer people. I know nothing about this franchise. Although a bunch of my friends play this, I know nothing about it. Absolutely zilch. Which leads to the other game I have for the PlayStation. That's Warhammer Shadow of the Horned Rat. This one I know I think my buddy Charlie had this one, and that was the first time I knew that first time I had found out that there were games for the PlayStation based on this. And it's another like strategy style game. Kind of like Warcraft or whatever. But I remember this one being kind of complicated. It's by SSI, and they were like the people releasing like the strategy tabletop games and stuff like that back in the day. So these things are, I think this is the one that I watched and played, and it was pretty complicated. But when I found it dirt cheap, I was just kind of like, yeah, I'll take it. So why not? One more game I'll probably never play. Anyway, pick this one up. This was in the expensive case at Video Games Then and Now, my new local retro shop. And when I saw what it was, I was like, I need this in my life. I don't care if it's terrible. It probably will be terrible. It is terrible. I had to have it. Warpath, Jurassic Park. I think this came out around the same time as Jurassic Park 3. So when I saw this in the case, I was like, it looks familiar, but what is that? So I was like, hey, can I see this Warpath game you have in the case? I'm going to take a look at the back. And the guy was like, sure. I take a look at it, and I was like, oh, yes. It is a one-on-one fighting game with dinosaurs. So if Primal Rage was your fighting game of choice, I've got your next obsession. It is not good. It controls like poop. Like the characters are just jumpy and floaty, and sometimes the controls don't even respond. But goddamn, I had to have it just for that alone. Like I have a Jurassic Park one-on-one fighting game. And yes, the dinosaurs are beating the crap out of each other. You've got a tiny little raptor fighting a gigantic freaking T-Rex. Who's going to win that fight? I don't know. Licensed Primal Rage clone? Yeah. I'd rather play Primal Rage. Looks deep cool. Ooh. There's another RPG franchise that I think was available on the PC. Never played them because I was not a PC gamer. Still am not. Even though I do play Vampire Survivors quite a bit. Has there ever been a good Jurassic Park game? Yes, Jurassic Park Part 2, The Chaos Continues on the Super Nintendo. You're welcome. Here we have Warriors of Might and Magic. Like I said, I've never played this franchise before. This looks like a 3D third-person action RPG with lots of magics. Bought this one at, I think, the disc replay place, and I've never actually played it. Just one of those things where I was just trying to amass a collection as fast as I possibly could. And there was just one of those things where I don't even realize. I'm like, you do realize you're never going to be able to play all these games, right? But I didn't care. I was just trying to get a collection again because I was like, I finally have the means to do so. I'm going to do it and try to do it as fast as I can. And then after a while, you just start to slow down. And you're like, you're buying a lot of crap. You might want to slow down. Didn't stop me, though. I'm still doing that. Next up, we have Wild 9. I had this back in the day, and I absolutely loved it. This is by Shiny Entertainment. They did the, MDK series. So it's kind of quirky. It's a third person, like 3/4 view, like horizontally scrolling action game, kind of like Contra. But the thing is, you have this like electricity whip. Okay, it's like this device that's attached to your wrist, and you throw it, and it's like it arcs. There's this arc of electricity that comes and attaches to an enemy, and then you can like sling them back and forth, and like in the Ghostbusters video game, how you have to like grab the ghost and then slam up against the walls and stuff to weaken them. Here, it's like you slam the characters back and forth until they die, kind of thing. It is really fun. You can see it on the cover. The lead character is doing it to this guy here. He's got him with the electric whip. And it is really funny. Torture your enemies. That is the whole point of this game. It is really fun, and it's actually got a really fun sense of humor. I like it a lot. It's just very quirky and different, and I think it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. I've been trying to find that for so long. I don't think I added that to my collection until maybe a year ago. It's not an expensive game. It's just one of those ones that I'm like, I need to add that to my collection, and then I totally forget about it for like a year. I need to start like making lists and like keeping them in my wallet or something. So I'm like, oh yeah, let's see if they have that game. So I probably wouldn't be able to buy these nowadays, but I got these off of, or got this. I felt like I had a Russian accent there for a second. What the hell? Anyway, I would not be able to get these nowadays because I think they're really expensive now, but I picked these up off of a Facebook group really early on in my collecting. So I kind of dodged that bullet. We're talking the original Wild Arms. There's another RPG. So you know what? I am adding this to my list because a Western, like a spaghetti Western, you know, Red River, The Searchers, RPG, yes. I remember reading about this back in the day, but I never actually picked up a copy. I don't know anybody that actually did have this out of the group of friends that I had that were gamers. But got back into collecting, and a lot of people were talking about it, and I was like, that just sounds really rad. It's like a Western RPG. Hell yeah. I hate Westerns. I hate them with a passion. But the idea of playing like an RPG in that kind of a universe, yes. That situation, yes. Another game that is in a 2-disc case, which is only 1 disc, and it has an average thickness manual. Go F yourself, Sony. Ruining my day. Anyway, it looks fantastic. This is getting added to my RPG list of stuff to play this year. And at the same time I got that, I picked up Wild Arms 2. Which is more of the same. I'm assuming it's a continuing story, probably same characters. I don't know. Haven't played it. Can anyone fill me in on the deets? I would be eternally grateful. I know nothing about this one. But there are multiple games. I think there's 5 mainline games in the franchise, and then there's like a remake of the first one on the PlayStation 2. That is like one of the more expensive PlayStation 2 games. Is this one actually multiple discs? Okay, so this one makes sense. It's 2 discs. There you go. That's how you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV. Absolutely had to have this because it is the sequel to one of my favorite games of all time. I talked about it in the 3DO video. I've talked about it in my favorite video games of all time video that I made years ago. Wing Commander 3 came out on the PlayStation. For some reason, it was glitchy as hell. We got it at the video store I worked at. That was one of the first games I convinced my boss to buy and add to the selection that we had for rental. And I brought it home one night because I had gotten rid of my 3DO at some point, and I was like, I want to play that again. It's on the PlayStation 1. Let's do it. And I remember I got to the end, and for some reason there was like some glitch that would crash the game, and you couldn't actually beat it. I'm wondering if there were further revisions that fixed that, but I couldn't say because I'm not going to own that copy. My 3DO version is perfectly fine. But there was a part 4. Part 3 was one of the better selling games of the time. So naturally, there's going to be a Wing Commander 4. And that is the price of freedom. And it brings back all the actors from the original, or from the last game, from the third game. So you got Mark Hamill and Malcolm McDowell again. You've got, what's his name? Thomas. The guy that played Biff in Back to the Future. Thomas, whatever. There's actually a bunch. Robert Russler, who was in Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and Vamp, and Weird Science is in this. There's a bunch of people who were like nobodies back then, but they're people now, or they're known actors now. The thing about this was when Wing Commander 3 came out, it was kind of experimental, the fact that they're doing this live action and trying to treat it like a live action movie that you kind of play. It's interactive. You're playing through this movie. So it was all done on green screen. So everything was CGI in the backgrounds except the actors. when it came to this one, because the third one made so much money, they were like, hey, I think this was the most expensive game ever made at this point in time. This cost like $12 million or something to make because they actually built real sets this time. And while that is awesome for the cutscenes, I play these games for the story, and the story in this one is not all that interesting. So it's like the Kilrathi War ended in the third game, and now it's like a bunch of people are like, now what do we do? So everyone has like that syndrome when like soldiers come back from the war and they don't know how to handle themselves when they're not in a war situation. You know, so I don't know if that's PTSD or whatever you want to call it. And it's like kind of like that. So it's just people picking fights. I'm like, this isn't what I signed up for. This is kind of dumb. You know, I don't get it, but it's cool. It is the outer space dogfight stuff that I love is great. It's fine, but the story in this one, I don't think even holds a candle to the third game. Even though the production values have tripled in this one, it's the story that matters, and I don't really like the story. Wing Commander 3 is one of my all-time favorite games. I've played through that game more times than I can count. And every time I played through it, 9 times out of 10, I picked the ex-porn star as my girlfriend. Ginger Lynn Allen, want to sit on my lap? Anyway, Wipeout XL. Here's another Psygnosis joint. Had to have this because of the Psygnosis thing. And it is the better game of this franchise. There's a bunch that Psygnosis made in this franchise for the PlayStation, but I think XL is the best of the three. The original game was a great starting off point, but, you know, it was an early game for the PlayStation. It was in a long box. It was a launch title, if I remember correctly. I definitely know it was one of the first games we got at the video store I worked at. But, like, it had room to grow. I mean, they were experimenting in this, like, 3D racing kind of thing. XL is where they got it right. They got it right a lot. Like, the soundtrack is kick-ass. It's a lot of electronic drum and bass type bands from the 90s. They got, like, the Prodigy and Junkie XL and all those hot, you know, techno bands from the era. What is it? Future Sound of London, Chemical Brothers, Prodigy, Underworld, Fluke, Photech. Yeah, these are like things that I was listening to at the time. And the gameplay was tweaked and it was awesome. It was almost perfection. The graphics are 10 times better. The effects and everything about it. I played this game to death. I absolutely loved it. I was like, what's the original? No, there is no original. This is the only Wipeout game for me. I played the crap out of it. I wondered why you would pick her. Ex-porn star, because I want an STD right on my lip. And then naturally, because that was a huge hit, they make Wipeout 3. And this time it was just kind of like, we're just going to do what we did in that game, and we'll kind of just leave it at that. So it didn't really feel like it evolved at all. It was just more of the same, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate it. I think it's a fantastic game, but it's like Wipeout. The difference between the original Wipeout and XL is leagues different. I mean, it is a huge step up in quality. This one is just kind of like a sidestep. So to me, it feels more like an add-on pack for XL than a new game. It doesn't mean it's not good. It is. It's pretty fantastic. It's just more of the same. 3D, sci-fi, hover car racing. Ooh, Peter, you're clever. Talking about Tomorrow Never Dies. We've also got the follow-up. We got World Is Not Enough. So this also came out on the Nintendo 64, but it is a completely different game. They are totally different games. That one is more of a first-person shooter, and this one, is this the first person? Hang on one second. I need to take a look at something. Hang on one second. I'm going to go check something. I'll be right back. And I'm breathing funny for some reason. Wrong again. This is a first-person shooter, and so was the Nintendo 64 one. I don't know why I was thinking this one was like a third-person game. It's probably because I'm confusing Tomorrow Never Dies and this, because Tomorrow Never Dies is the third-person one. Whatevs. Yeah, another first-person shooter, really trying to get those GoldenEye dollars. Not quite getting there. I remember this one being better than Tomorrow Never Dies, but in the meantime, I went and I got my drink, so my dry ass throat, I can alleviate my dry ass throat. You're right, Peter. That's why I hang out with you. You make me laugh. Oh my god. I'll talk about it next. Was it not next week? Then the week after for my pickups video. I bought a Blu-ray of a movie that I haven't seen in a long time. It's an anime. There's a song that they play in it where the guy, it's like one of those songs where it's like sung by someone who is Japanese, who speaks Japanese natively, and for some reason they insert like English lyrics in the song, but they can't say the words right. It's been stuck in my head all day for some reason. I don't want to ruin it. I'll talk about it in that video. That's a tease for the pickups video at the end of the month. I was talking about this game earlier in other PlayStation streams. That there was that game Thrill Kill that was being made by Electronic Arts, and it was like this 4-player fighting game, but it was like arena based. It was like Street Fighter, but if you were to take, you had 4 people fighting at the same time instead of just 2, and it was in like a 3D arena. And it was like going to be super violent and gory and all this kind of stuff. And then like the word got out and people started saying, no, it's going to be like, it's going to corrupt the children kind of thing. And it got canceled because of all the bad press that was coming out. I'll send it to you, Peter, after the stream's over. You're going to laugh. I was like, God damn. Oh man. Anyway, but like the bones of that game turned into other games. And there was, what was a Cardinal Sin, and I think Gekido was one of them. And the big one that came out of it is Wu-Tang Shaolin Style. Yeah. There's a Wu-Tang Clan game. Yeah, Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. It's a 4-person, like one-on-one. It's not really one-on-one if there's 4 people, is there? It's a 2-on-2, a 1-on-3. I don't know. Arena fighting game where you're playing as like all the people from the band. So you can play as RZA, GZA, Method Man. Or was it Ghostface Killer and the Method Man? No. You got RZA, Method Man, Raekwon, GZA, Old Dirty Bastard, Master Killer. What is that? You Good? Yeah, You Good, Inspector Deck, and Ghostface Killer. On top of all these other characters and stuff that they added in. It includes 3 exclusive Wu-Tang music tracks. Hell yeah. I love Wu-Tang Clan. I don't actually own any of their albums, but whenever I've heard songs of theirs, I was like, why do I not have any of those songs in my collection? Because they're really cool, because they are obviously fans of the martial arts films. I mean, come on. RZA went and directed The Man with the Iron Fists. He loves the martial arts. All of the martial arts. That's the whole idea behind the band. So, of course, they made a fighting game starring them. And the thing is, I need to find that official Wu-Tang controller for the PlayStation. It looks like the single most uncomfortable controller in the history of controllers because it's in the shape of the W from Wu-Tang Clan, and it has all the buttons on that. So you're kind of holding it like, because of the way the curves are, you're going to be holding it like this. Nah. But this game is pretty cool. I like it a lot. It's fun. It's a little clunky. I can see one of the reasons why. Like I turned it I can see the appeal of doing a game like this because it was something different for the genre of fighting games, but it still had a long way to go to perfect it. But like, I'm glad that something like this came out of the ashes of that one because this is awesome. It is like really fun. Next up, we have another licensed game. We got the X-Files. Had to have this because I was a huge X-Files fan back in the day. Still am. In the later seasons, not so much, especially those new seasons that they made a couple or years ago. I hated those so much. Anyway, this is like playing interactive episodes. So you have live action footage because that's what you did on the PlayStation. Everything was live action, full motion video stuff. And you have like these icons at the bottom that have to do with the investigating parts. So you're getting told what's going on, and then you have to actually do the investigating with the tools you are provided to uncover the mysteries. And I think this is multiple stories. It's not just one. As field agent Craig Wilmore, assigned to assist agents Mulder and Scully in a oh god, I need glasses so bad. In their latest investigation into paranormal activity, follow a trail of elusive clues, sift through evidence at crime scenes, use a wide range of standard issue FBI equipment and special tools, conduct interviews with witnesses and suspects, and make critical decisions to solve an all-new X-Files case. So it is one specific case. I never got very far in it, so I didn't know if it was one or multiples. But, I mean, it's really cool. You get to do all these different things in the X-Files universe, and I love the X-Files, like I said, so I had to have that. You know, I like that game. That controller, I have to have that controller, dude. I have to have it. It's so stupid. I have to have it. Just as a joke, I have to. Had to have this, too. I found this, and I remember exactly when I found this. I found this at Half Price Books, and it was like $4. And I picked it up because I saw some video somewhere. It might have been Continue playing it or something like that, but I remember seeing a video, and people were laughing at it, and I was like, yes. That is Xena, Warrior Princess. I have never watched an episode of this show or Hercules, The Legendary Journeys. Never, ever. I remember when they were on and they were super popular, but I just didn't care. But the thing I saw about this that I thought was really funny is, well, I mean, it looks kind of cool when you look at the back, like you're fighting like Greek legend creatures and stuff like that. But there is, like, you have that chakram thing that Xena is known for, that hollow frisbee thing, right? When you throw it as a weapon, the camera attaches to it and follows it, and you can kind of control it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So when I saw this dirt cheap at Half Price Books, I was like, you know what? Give it here. I'm going to add it to the collection, and it is not great. But for like a guilty pleasure B movie video game kind of thing, like you could do a lot worse. And the last game I'm going to talk about here tonight, people, I got this as a gift from my buddy Corpse Flood. I need to take my time. So, Corpse Flood and I were talking at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I think this was in 2018. And he was like going off. He was like naming off like really popular games that he thought that I should play. He's like, "Have you played this? Yes or no? Have you played this? Yes or no?" And I remember he brought up this game, and I was like, "I know of it. I've never actually owned it, and I've never actually played it. But I know people who have played it, and they say it's great, but I've never actually played it." And he goes, okay. I didn't really think anything of that. Turns out he was like doing reconnaissance, and he was trying to figure out if he found games that he was asking me about that I don't own, that if he finds them, because he was always getting games, like when he was working for Domino's, he was a Domino's pizza delivery guy for a while. And like the people on his normal route knew that he collected video games, and they would pay him in tips. His tips would be video games. And he was like he was going on Facebook Marketplace and like going and buying lots of games from people and all that. And if he got doubles, he would always give them to like me or Church, the game grinder. So one day I came home from work and there's a box sitting on my steps. And I was like, what is this? I haven't ordered anything lately from eBay or anything. Like, what is this? And it just had an address on there, and I was like, "This came from it's from Minnesota," because Jason comes from Canada to Minnesota, and he uses our postal system, so he doesn't have to pay all the exorbitant taxes in Canada. So like I opened it up, and I was just kind of like, "That son of a bitch!" I was like, he was doing reconnaissance to see if I had certain games, and when he came across a duplicate in like his travels, he just sent this to me for free because he's a good guy, and that's Xenogears. I had never played any games in this franchise. I had never played this or the Xeno Saga games that came after it or anything like that. So I knew nothing about it. I just knew that it was a sci-fi RPG and that Square made it and that a lot of people really liked it. But I also heard about the bad things about it where like the developers ran out of money at the end and the game just kind of ends or something like that. Or it just ends with a whimper instead of like this big impact like I guess it was building up to or whatever. So that I remember being kind of one of the reasons why I never played it back in the day, because I was like, well, if it doesn't really have like a satisfying ending, why would I want to put that much time into a game if I'm going to be like bummed out that they didn't get to actually end the game the way they wanted because they didn't have enough money kind of thing. So Jason just sent me a copy of this for absolute free. It was complete and everything. It's in really good shape. And I remember like I got inside my house, I opened up the box, I saw it, and I was like, you son of a bitch. And I texted him on Facebook Messenger. I was just like, it's like, why did you send me this? And the only thing he sent me was a picture of him. He was like, I guess, sitting in his car driving. I think he was delivering pizzas when I texted him. And he sent me a picture. He was like wearing sunglasses. He's in the driver's seat. He's like this. So I was just like, dude, you didn't have to do that. He's like, no, I didn't. But, you know, you said you never played it, and I want you to play it. So this is probably going to be one of the games I play this year. I don't know if I'm going to have time for all these. I maybe have to make 2023 and 24 my years of the RPG because there's so many I need to play, especially on this flipping console. God damn, there's so many bangers. But, yeah, what is it? 20 minutes of stunning hand-drawn anime to tell this complex futuristic tale. Battling giant robots or hand-to-hand using intuitive combat systems without menus. Explore detailed, fully rotatable polygonal environments. My vision has gotten so bad I can barely read small type anymore, guys. I need to go and get glasses. But anyway, super thrilled to have this in my collection. And because of this, I went and really made an effort to get the Xenosaga games. And the only one I'm missing is the third one. And I saw it over the weekend at a store, a new store that I went to, which I'm going to be bringing some of my bros here when they come to visit this weekend, that I was not willing to pay because I was like, no, I'm not going to be extorted like that. But anyway, yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out with me, even though I've been rambling and mumbling and acting stupid because I'm exhausted beyond belief. I need to go get something to eat. I'm having some sugar. That's pretty much the only thing keeping me awake right now. I didn't release a what do they call it? A short last week on Friday. I probably won't release one tomorrow either. I will, on the other hand, be releasing the first episode of the RPG campaign that I'm currently running, Tides of Flame, on my YouTube channel. So I stream my tabletop RPG that Mondane is in and the Game Grinder is in and a bunch of my other friends. I stream it on Twitch, but Twitch will only keep a stream on their website for like a month. And after that, it just disappears into the ether. It's gone unless you download it. Well, I downloaded it. And so once it's gone there, I'm putting it up on the YouTube channel if you miss it. So it's going up on Sunday. I have it already uploaded. It's timed release on Sunday. So keep an eye out for that. And the following episode 2 will be available maybe in a few weeks when that one's about ready to disappear from the Twitch channel and all that. And keep an eye out on the social media to see when episode 3 is coming. I think we're doing that in mid-February, I think. Yes. So keep an eye out for that. I will have a new short next week. I just didn't feel like doing one. Like, I finished the stream last week, and I was like, I'm going to do it short. I'm going to get something to eat real quick, and I fell asleep. I ate, and I passed out. Same thing's probably going to happen tonight, so I don't think I'm going to be doing another short tonight for tomorrow. So next week we'll return with the shorts, but in the meantime, you've got that Tides of Flame live stream replay to look forward to for Sunday. Anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out tonight. I'm super thrilled that everybody came to hang out. Everybody, that's awesome. Hey, show up early, late, after the fact, doesn't matter. As long as you are watching it, I am happy. As long as you're here. So thank you for coming, Retro Coop. Anyway, yes, I would definitely like a Xenogears crossover. I remember you doing Recon. Yeah, I did. Did I ever tell you that I did that for you, Mondane? That Jen asked me to do that for you? I remember asking you all that stuff on Twitter, and I was just like, I wonder if he's going to catch on that I'm trying to find out if he has a specific game or not. Oh, God, that's funny. Yeah, that was great. Retro Rivals at one point texted me. They're like, how well do you know Mondane? I'm like, we talk a little bit. And they're like, can you see if he has this one specific game? We have a copy of it. We want to send it to him, but we don't want to send it to him if he already has it. So I was like, yeah, I got it. And I sent him a message on Twitter, and I was like, hey, I'm doing this video about like games in people's collections, like common games and like well-known games. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in doing this thing. And do you have this game in your collection? Do you have this game in your collection? Do you have this game in your collection? And he's like, yeah, I got it. I was like, okay. I texted her back, and I was like, shit, he already has it, so don't send it. You should know who sent you the game. If it wasn't them, I don't know who it was. But anyway, thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out once again. I will talk to you next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central. Hopefully, I will not be as tired and rushed as I was tonight. But hey, I got the stream done. We're good. And the console I will be talking about next week is probably going to be the Nintendo 64. So it's going to be a one-shot and done because I do not have a lot of Nintendo 64 games because, as you all will know, I hate the Nintendo 64. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a happy, happy, happy stream. So hopefully I'll see you all next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central. Have a good night, everybody. Chris, the old ass retro gamer, out. Daddy needs a cheeseburger.